technology, correct? All right. Good afternoon, Jeannie. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me here.
Oh, I'm well. The sun is shining in Buffalo, so it's still extremely cold, but the sun at least makes me feel a little bit better.
Good.
So everybody, this is Jeannie Buckman. She is an exercise physiologist and national board certified health and wellness coach, mom, and entrepreneur. And she is here today to talk about everything health and wellness. So Jeannie, tell me a little bit about how you got into the health and wellness industry.
So it actually was interesting because I actually was in the military before, and I got out of the military, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in the pre-med program for a while, and discovered that that's just not my thing. Love dancing, so I figured, okay, exercise physiology, may be a good route to go. And I decided to jump right into that, and I got my undergraduate and graduate degree from in those areas.
Wow, nice. What kind of dance did you study?
I actually did modern dance, I did jazz and ballet.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
I danced for close to 15 years and all of that. So I love dance. I can't hear music and not, do like the dance, the awkward dance look everywhere. So yes, it's an embarrassing stage for my kids. So that's awesome. So what exactly does exercise physiologist, what does that mean?
So exercise physiology is basically exercise science. You study everything that has to do with the body and the movement of the body, metabolism, anything that has to do with physiology and exercise, if that makes sense. So we study nutrition. It's pretty rigorous, the program. We study nutrition, we study metabolism, we study hormones. We then have to do research. So there's a lot of research that goes into it, especially the program I was in. So you do a lot of research, and it's to kind of like, we kind of help the government and other institutions in setting guidelines for exercise. So that's why when we update it, you see like the recommendations for exercise is 150 minutes because, and we just have all that data with heart disease and diabetes and, cholesterol, and we can have that data to back it up. In addition to that, we also, we work with cancer patients. It's just a whole huge field.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like very broad about everything.
Broad. Wow. And so then you narrow it down to what you want to focus on. I started out doing cardiac rehab in the hospital. And I did research there. And then I moved away from clinical as the years went on and decided, and I did personal training, but I said, this stuff is not for me, because like personal training, you tell somebody to do something and they do it right there in front of you, but they don't continue to do those things. And sometimes they don't show up. And so there wasn't this, you weren't getting that follow through with people, and they were quitting, and it just was not fun on the trainer side of things, So I decided I wanted to have a bigger impact on people. And I jumped into, and this was in 2003 when they first came out with coaching programs. The first place, Well Coaches, came out with a coaching program, and I decided to be part of the first cohort that went through it. And back then, people didn't know what coaching was. I mean, you'd say you're a health and wellness coach, and they'd look at you like, what is that?
What does it mean? Yeah.
What? Yeah. And when you said exercise physiology, immediately their mind went to, oh, personal training. Not really. It's much, much more than that. So it's kind of like having that elevator pitch and breaking it down, making it simple for people. But as the years went on, now we have tons of coaches out there from all types of, schools. And so that's why we have the national board that they actually they wanted to standardize coaching and just have more of a process to it so that it was more reputable. And in 2017, they then came out with their national board testing, which is actually approved by the Medical Board Association.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's pretty involved. That's a
Yeah.
lot of knowledge you have there. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
And that's part of, you know, doing the coaching and working with women through the years. And I actually transitioned into corporate because this is where I felt like people wanted to make a change. And now I had the tools to help them. And believe it or not, you know, when it comes to any type of change, people jump right into the behaviors, and you have to start with, it starts in the mind. It's that mindset. It's the shift in the way you think about things. If you want to be at a certain point, you can't do the same things you're doing now to be there. You have to change who you are and how you do things to be at that certain point in your life. So that's what I work with people on, is that mindset. And then we go into behavior change. It's kind of tied together. And I would say the first company that came out with that everybody's familiar with is Noom. You know, where they use positive psychology.
And
Yes.
it's an app. And actually I see it on TV now all the time. There's commercials all the time with Noom. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And I bring that up because a lot of people familiar with it. It's, you know, kind of put itself out there. But that's what I've done for years, you know, is that what Noom talks about is what many coaches that are nationally board certified, that's what they do. They use positive psychology, motivational interviewing, a lot of techniques that come out of psychology. And we have all these things in our toolbox to really move that person, you know, through these stages, so that they can get to making the change for them and not for other external factors or people.
And I would imagine that everybody that you see isn't in the same like spot or part of their journey when it comes to health or fitness. And maybe some just want more of a diet or, you know, healthy living with their food intake, and others maybe want to incorporate exercise. So you can kind of work with every realm of clientele, I would imagine.
Yeah. And so that's where that intake session would be so important, into figuring out what were their goals, what did they want to work on. There would be times I look at their labs. You know, maybe their doctor had wanted them to work on something. But besides the labs and what the doctors wanted, it came down to what they wanted at the end of the day. So that's where it was kind of like doing that intake session, figuring out their goals, looking at their vision. You know, you want to look at your 3-month vision. And then from the vision, you create a goal. And then from the goal, you create your as you, many people know, the SMART goal. You know, these small, and I call them micro goals, you know, or micro behaviors to get you to that bigger goal. Because I actually did a live earlier. And what I usually tell people is that I know you want to jump right in and you want to do everything you're supposed to do to get on that path to losing weight, or to lower your blood pressure or your cholesterol or blood sugars, or even pain, decrease the pain, right? But the bottom line is that before you get all of those things at the end, you have to do the work. And in order to do the work, you have to be, or to get there, you have to be consistent with it. And in order to be consistent, it has to be small so that your brain recognizes that this is simple. I can do this. Yeah. So if your goal is to increase your water intake, you want to see where you're at first. And so there's a lot of water apps now that you can track. Mm-hmm. And you can track how much water you're taking in. And then from there, you can say, okay, it looks like I'm drinking 40 ounces of water today. Tomorrow, I'm going to increase it by 2 ounces. That's easy. So easy. So you want to make it so easy that you don't miss it. You know, that it is like, yeah, like you're like, whoa, this is a joke. I can do this. You know, if you want to do 10 push-ups, start out doing 1. Okay. Do 1 push-up every single day for a week, or do 1 push-up on 3 days. However you decide to, plan it out. If you want to be very specific about it, you want to make sure that you are going to complete it. Some words that we use, like try, is not a good word to use. Okay, it's either can't. We don't want that. It's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. So those are we work on a lot of the words, changing those around, because I used to get clients that say, okay, I'll try 3 days a week. Well, no, maybe we should do 2. If 2 is you can do 2, then let's stick to 2.
Yeah.
And from there, it's kind of like devising that plan of, what am I going to do, and sticking to it. Because the minute you start sticking with things, it becomes, a habit. And after 21 days, now you've got all these changes you've made, and they were so small that you didn't recognize it before. You didn't think it would have that much of an impact. And then 21 days later, you're like, whoa, I've been drinking a lot of water. I've been walking a mile every day. I've been eating a serving of vegetable with my lunch, and you don't realize it until later.
That's very true. And that's a great way to look at it, because I think a lot of people, even when it comes to like a New Year's resolution or anything, people have these massive goals in mind. I mean, we all have these big goals, and on days that we feel like, man, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to kill it at the gym, and you do the upper and you do the lower and you do the cardio, and then you can't walk for 4 days. And then you're like, you burn yourself out. And then you're like, I don't want to do that again, because you want to push yourself to the point where, you want to get to that result as soon as you can, but you just burn out mentally and physically. And I am so guilty of that. And so definitely making small habits, turn into, and you just climb the ladder little by little. And what has helped me is to put things on paper. Like if I put something on paper that, maybe a week at a time, and, I want to do X, Y, Z, but to get there, I can do this and this. And then this way, when I check something off the list, it makes me feel like I've completed something. Like I've gotten to that small goal. And now next week I can work on another one, So I definitely think that is so important for anybody who's trying to reach any type of goal, whether it be, financial in your, in your business, or health and your diet. That's definitely something you have to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Having a checklist, having a journal. You can do a whiteboard and write it down. However way you feel will help you. What I discovered is that there's some people that are really into it and they love doing lists and journaling. And there's other people that if you tell them they have to journal, that just makes it worse for them.
Right, their mentality is like, oh no, yeah.
Yes. It's like, what? I have to keep a log now? No. So maybe it could be an app that may be simpler. It could be just verbally speaking it out to somebody who's an accountability partner. Yes. It could be putting it on that whiteboard, or just, into your calendar, checking it off in your calendar. So however way you find will keep you on point, and making sure you do your goals is key. I agree. Yeah. If you can journal, it's a great thing.
Yeah. I know sometimes when people say, journaling, and everybody's like, get some gratitude practices going and this and that. And I find it hard if you're not used to doing something in, putting pen to paper, that actually sitting down, opening up a book and kind of getting comfortable. You need a certain amount of time to kind of do that. You can't just do that on the fly. Like to me, that's something I've always, I have notebooks from the time that I've been a teenager, just writing notes, daily quotes, whatever's on my head. So I'm used to that. But I have found, being a busy mom, your phone is always with you, but my notes app is always with me. It is filled with more I mean, just even songs I hear on the radio, I'm like, oh, I'm opening up my, my notes app or voice talking into my phone. And then I just found out that I could actually print from my notes app. So I printed, I printed these pages and then I just stapled them into my notebook. I'm like, oh yes, now I have my phone notes into my regular notes. But I definitely think that, and then like the younger generation, they're definitely more used to the technology and their phone being right attached to their hands. So I think the apps definitely work better. But you have to remember to, when you're opening up your phone, to actually why you opened your phone and to go to that specific app, and then not be like, let me check my Facebook, let me check my Twitter, and then 20 minutes later, you're like, what was I supposed to do?
Yes.
What
Yes.
did I come here for? So you have to stay focused,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to create a habit that is best for you. And everybody has a different way of learning and sticking to something. So try different means of, like you said,
Absolutely.
the whiteboard, or if it's got to be in front of your face, or I used to have Post-its, posted all around my laptop. Wherever you have to stick them, keep yourself accountable.
Yeah. And, I actually think, I'm not diagnosing myself, but I think I have ADHD, seriously. I can't really focus too much on one task at a time. So what I've had to do and what I've taught my kids is time blocking. And I kind of explain it to them, like, you have to put the timer. So I use the timer on my phone and I set it for a certain amount of time. And I say, okay, for this amount of time, I'm just doing this one task. It's surprising how much you get out of the 15 minutes doing that one task versus if you just tell yourself you're going to do it and you get distracted with 10 million things and you never get it done, or it takes you too long.
Right. Well, yeah, because nowadays everybody has 4 or 5 pages of apps on their phone, so they're literally just scrolling. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Every time I open my phone, I feel like I have to check every means of my social, all of my emails, but I turn around and I'm like, nope, put it down, and then go back to what I actually opened up my phone to do. But that's a great idea, setting a timer. I love that idea. It's not a bad idea. I'm gonna have to implement that.
And the kids, like one of my sons, he actually did it by just looking at the clock and doing the work. And he said, Mom, that's not as good as what you told me, is to actually set the timer. I said, yeah, because what happens is that now your brain registers that you have to get something done within a period of time, and that clock or the alarm is going to go off. And so now you're super focused because you're like, I got to get this done because that alarm is going to go off and I better be done.
Right, exactly. Kind of like with sleep. You're like, if I don't sleep, that alarm's going to go off either way.
Yes.
I know, right? But yes, and that's good that he can recognize that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now how old is you have twin boys, right?
Yes, they just turned 15 on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. So the teen years, I love it.
Yeah.
How's that going for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a different stage for sure. Yeah.
Now, how do they I guess relate to like a healthy lifestyle and eating and stuff? Do you kind of practice with them and make sure that they're on top of, trying to eat well, or?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I've always, from the time they were born, I've always stayed home with them, and I've been lucky enough to have work from home. So be able to work from home. So it's always been great. So they've always seen Mom, and I've focused a lot on, from the time they were born, it was like, breastfeeding for a year. And then when it came to solids, it was pureeing all the foods for them and feeding them, organic foods. Now that they're older and they kind of have like more control,
right?
It gets harder when they get older, but at least I'm hoping that I set a good, a framework around that with eating and exercise, that they take that with them and they can implement it on their own, but kids are kids, and they junk just like all the others.
Right. And it's too readily available everywhere we go. You do got to try to make healthy choices. And I definitely try to do it hard with my kids. But yeah, there's nothing stopping them going into the pantry and grabbing a bag of chips, at all hours of the day, especially when COVID hit and they were home, virtual. Oh my goodness. I think that's all that they ate was, just junk out of the pantry. It was
Oh, wow.
very hard, and then when they finally went to school, I'm like, you guys are going to starve to death, not being able to walk into the pantry every 15 minutes.
Well, interestingly, they would eat worse in school because, they'd have the cash on their account. So they'd go and get the junk. Where at home, the snacks that we have are healthier. So, they want to munch on, there's no really chips, they munch on popcorn.
Okay.
Popcorn is a healthier choice. We've got sparkling water. They want, like bubbly or something, So yeah, I do make it a point we try very hard to make sure the food in the house is healthy. And so if one of them wants a snack, they can grab a grapefruit. Like one of my sons just had a grapefruit for a snack. Wow. He's allergic to nuts, so he can't have, nuts. So he just has the fruit and he's good. He loves yogurt. He has the yogurt with granola. So yeah, it's somewhat healthy.
I'm jealous. You did a great job. That's awesome. No, that's good. At least they know, it sounds like they've got, some good healthy choices in the back of their head from you. So it helps us, helps our health, keeps our illnesses down and inflammation away. So
yes.
Now, let me ask you, what do you suggest if somebody came to you with high cholesterol or like high blood pressure? Do those correlate at all?
So you can have one or the other or both. It just depends on your diet. And no, they don't correlate. Some people just have high blood pressure and others have high cholesterol. And it just has to do with the foods you're eating most times. With cholesterol, it's the saturated fats that are in your diet, and most likely a lack of exercise, which helps to increase your good cholesterol, HDL. And the saturated fats increase the bad cholesterol, like LDL and triglycerides. So you do want to make sure that you're adding a lot more vegetables and fruits. And what I would say, instead of looking at things to eliminate from your diet, because it sounds so horrible, I tell people, start out with adding, because the more you add, you're not going to have room for the other stuff. You add more vegetables, add more fruits, add more nuts, the olive oil, avocado, all those good fats to your diet, all of the high fiber and the protein. You're going to feel so satisfied that you're not going to have as many cravings as you used to have, because your blood sugars will be stabilized, but you're also getting the nutrients you need. So your body is not craving for things that it's lacking, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does. Absolutely. What do you suggest for people that are, oh, good Lord. Now I'm completely having a brain fart. My daughter doesn't eat meat.
Okay. Yeah. Vegan.
Yeah.
Vegan.
Vegan. Oh, I don't know why.
Vegan.
Yeah. Okay. Had a complete brain fart.
There's different types, because, I don't eat red meat or pork, but I'm not a vegan. I'm just vegetarian. I'm a lacto vegetarian. So there's different types of vegetarianism, but if she's a vegan where she wouldn't eat cheese, eggs, anything that has to do with animals.
Eats cheese. So I'm going to say more she's just vegetarian. But she'll eat, she'll eat gross chicken fingers, that are breaded and fried. But how else can you get protein into a diet?
Oh, plenty. Yeah, you can get protein through vegetables too, believe it or not. Broccoli has tons of protein. So you can get protein from vegetables. You can get protein from legumes. Legumes would be like lentils, beans, garbanzo beans, black beans, red beans. You can get it from nuts, such as peanuts or cashews or almonds. So there's a large variety of proteins that you can get for sure, for sure.
It's
Milk has
definitely,
protein in it. Like pretty much when you look at foods, a lot of foods have protein in them. The reason why we focus so much on the meat group and the dairy group is because they have the higher amounts of protein. And there's also what's called incomplete and complete protein. Complete proteins you already find in your meats. So those are just complete, they have all of the proteins in it, the amino acids. Whereas if you go for a vegetarian meal, now you have to combine it to get your complete protein meal. So for example, if you have pizza, that's a complete protein because it's got the cheese and the sauce and, you know, and the crust. If you do a pasta with sauce, same thing. You're getting all of your, so we kind of naturally have foods that combine that give us the complete protein. But if you only ate one of those things, then you're only getting partial protein.
ah, I see. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Mhm.
It makes sense. It's hard, you know, and it's hard for, I guess, for myself and my kids. I'm a very plain, picky eater. Like when you were mentioning beans and legumes, like that is like a nope. No. We have a very bad texture problem in this household. So eating the very like I don't want like the most popular, you know, like just lettuces, regular iceberg lettuce or Caesar lettuce. You know, half my family doesn't even eat a tomato. I eat tomatoes. They won't eat tomatoes. Cucumbers are very popular in this house. Carrots, celery, you know, maybe a strawberry or a banana. But I have to try to introduce more foods. But I got to say, my kids are better than me on this because they'll actually try something, and then they'll spit it out. But they'll at least try it. Where I know that I'm like, no, I just not gonna enjoy that. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard. I have such a bad mindset around some foods. I don't know why. I got to be more open to foods. I'm so guilty of that. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I don't blame you. I'm picky. My kids, you know, we all have our likes and dislikes. And when you do have a family that you have to cook for, it becomes a little challenging sometimes. You know, I have one of my sons, he does not eat tomatoes at all. No tomatoes. You can make sauce, you know,
Right.
tomato sauce, but no tomatoes.
Mm.
The other one has allergies to tree nuts and peanuts. And he's very picky about he doesn't like spicy foods. You know, he doesn't like Asian food. It's like,
Wow. Yeah.
so it's like, I'm going to make pasta tonight. And one of them will say, yay, and the other, no.
Ugh. It's
So
so
yeah,
hard to please them. You know,
it is.
I've come to the realization that you're gonna be disappointing somebody in the house. It's, you know, one day at a time. And when all else fails, you're gonna eat cereal. Like you can't keep making, you know, all of these meals. The other day I got so tired of like the kids just, well, I'm not having that. And it's so set on like, well, no, you know, and it's just, well, you know what? Then there's cereal. You can't keep making all these separate meals every single day because you burn out. And then you
Yeah,
don't want to be in the kitchen. You know, your
yeah,
kitchen is like the last place you want to be because it's just, you just don't know what to do, you know.
right.
And
Yeah.
there's like that picture, that forward that's forever going around social media. That's, you know, that says when you're an adult, you're forever asking what's for dinner, you know. As an adult, it's what's for dinner every single day of your life. And it's like the biggest challenge when everybody in the household just has a different palate, you know. But
Yeah, yeah.
what are you gonna
You
do?
just try different recipes and then save the best.
Right. Hope for the best. Yep. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. I want you to, if you could please enlighten us in the audience about I guess what had happened with your daughter. Do you want to start with that? I'm not sure how to kind of bring
Sure.
it up.
Yeah. So So in this industry, I've worked in the health and wellness industry for 25 years, and I've been so focused on helping other women with managing their chronic conditions, whether it was pain or medical diagnosis of something, right? And so that's what I've worked with my whole career, is that population. And last summer, or actually COVID started. I will say COVID started, and then we all were working from home, school, everything was at home. We were all stuck at home. And, throughout that year, my daughter started to have these symptoms. And I would take her she went to the GI doctor, the regular pediatrician, she went to actually 2 GI doctors, psychologist, psychiatrist, what else? Dermatologist, you name it. Heart doctor. We took her to a cardiologist too. So she had been seen and had blood work multiple times throughout the year. The blood work did not come back normal. Her liver numbers were off. They couldn't figure out why. She was losing tons of weight. She, had these symptoms that they said she had panic disorder. They diagnosed her with panic disorder. Several doctors did. But they couldn't figure out why. She went in October of 2021 for an appointment with the cardiologist because her pediatrician at a normal visit said that she had a heart murmur. She's never had a heart murmur before. She's been perfectly healthy. Well, we take her to the cardiologist. The cardiologist does a check on her. He does an echocardiogram, and he says, everything looks great. She's got a mild murmur, but it looks normal. I'll just keep, I want her to come back next year for follow-up. And that's it. So we leave. This is October 2021. Or I'm sorry, not 2021, 2020. Okay. And then we roll back into the next year, it's 2021. She's getting ready to graduate, a lot of stress in the house because, we're all stuck at home, and it's her senior year in high school. And we're thinking, this anxiety and panic, and she's seeing the psychiatrist, and she has a counselor or a therapist weekly. I mean, this is a weekly thing. She's on medication. She gave up the medications after a month because she said it made her feel worse. So we're going through all of this, and I just had this sinking feeling something wasn't right. I said, I know what they're telling me, but she's really sick. I don't know how to explain this. She's really, really sick. She's in her room most of the days. She barely eats. She looks weak, and her face looks different. I can't pinpoint it. As a mom, you just know something is not right. I had the gut feeling. I remember one day I was with my husband in the car, and I just said it out loud. I said, something's not right. This can't be anxiety or panic disorder. I don't know what that's supposed to look like, but I don't think it's this. Right. And I kept saying something, and we kept going to the doctor and so on. And now we're approaching graduation, and it's May. All this time she had been wearing baggy clothes, baggy jogging pants, sweatshirt, just like the teenage, regular home, clothes or outfit, right?
Comfy clothes.
And so she decides one day in May that she wants to go, well, not decide, because she had been seeing her friends a little bit more. And in May, she said she wanted to go to her friend's house. I said, sure. This was 5 days before high school graduation. That whole week they had been busy with preparing. They did the practice ceremony. She'd been with her friends. They made a ring together that they were going to wear at graduation. It's just lots of activity. So she goes to her friend's house. She's texting us throughout the day. She's having a good time. And I'll never forget, it was 4:00 in the afternoon. Her friend drives her back home. And I'm walking from the kitchen to the front door, headed into my office to do a live. And she opens the door, And immediately my eyes fall to her legs because she had decided that day she would wear shorts. Her legs did not look like this, in the morning. I look at her legs and they are triple the size. This is a very skinny, petite person. She's 5'2", barely 100 pounds, not even 100 pounds, 95 pounds. Skinny. Her legs were so swollen. They look like elephant legs.
Wow.
I just fell to the floor and I gently touched her legs, just very, very gently. And I remember in my head, I said, this is edema. Something's going on with her heart, blood pressure, something. I called the pediatrician and the pediatrician said to bring her over. I brought her over. By the time the pediatrician told me to take her to ER, she could barely walk. I had to roll her in with a wheelchair. They transferred her at the ER. They said she had heart failure. How does a 17-year-old healthy girl have heart failure? Wow. We then are we were supposed to get transferred to Johns Hopkins Medical Center, but their beds were booked. They were all booked up. So we ended up getting transferred to University of Maryland Medical Center. We go there. She spent 7 weeks there. And within the 7 weeks, the first week, we couldn't even figure out what was going on. They thought, is this a result of the COVID shot? Because she was vaccinated. The doctors were like, maybe this is a reaction to the COVID that she's got right heart failure. They couldn't figure out what's going on. So they kept digging deeper. And we had specialists from almost every single field you can think of, walking into the room, doing blood work, checking her, asking questions. It was like they were drilling us. And it was to the point where she was so stressed out. And she was like, why don't they stop poking and prodding me, Mom? I'm tired. And I said, I'm sorry. They have to find out what's going on. Yeah. Well, the oncologist came in and the hematologist and oncologist said, she doesn't have cancer. The biomarkers are saying they're negative for biomarker or for cancer. And she's got nodules on her liver, but they don't look cancerous at all from what we're seeing. We're not concerned about that. We're concerned about her heart. So, throughout this whole time, they're doing tests. They can't figure out what's wrong. Finally, this doctor walks in on a Monday morning, almost a week later, and she's like, what's going on? Why haven't we biopsied her liver yet? I want to biopsy it. And so immediately we go in and we biopsy the liver. The next day, we find out that she has this very rare cancer called neuroendocrine tumor cancer. We had never heard of it before. It's not even on the biomarker panel testing. That's how rare it is. Okay. It's rare amongst adults because it's a slow working tumor that through the years, you only find it by accident. You'll go in for an X-ray or a scan for something else and they'll find it there. It's just by accident. It's very rare. But even more rare amongst kids, not only that, the fact that she had left right heart failure and this cancer, they said she was a unicorn amongst unicorns. They had to consult with the leading expert in the country in Iowa and here at NCI, National Cancer Institute. We had to bring specialists into her case. The team of doctors were huge, from the cardiologist to the infectious disease doctors, to the oncologist, the regular it was crazy. But, they discovered, okay, they said, we have a plan. We know what we need to do. Immediately, they gave her the medication, the treatment that she needed, and everything was stabilized. We went into heart surgery as soon as she was able to get her nutrients in. They finally said, okay, she's healthy enough to have heart surgery, but it's very, very high risk. Very high risk. Heart surgery in general, open heart surgery is very risky. Yeah. But the only thing she had going for her was that she was young. That's it. So they went in and they did heart. I'll never forget. I thought that was the worst day of my life, really. I didn't eat practically anything all day, pacing, but she actually did really well. She made it through, no issues. They were shocked. They had all of these backup plans of what would they do if X, Y, and Z happened, and they didn't have to do anything. She got through it, and I said, wow, okay, we're on the right path now. That was the big concern. So she gets through by the next day, she's sitting up in the chair. And we're so happy that, she's going to come home and we're going to be able to take her to the specialist to get her cancer treated. Well, a few days later, they do the regular test. They check for her fever and all that. They constantly checking her, and they discover she had a fever. Well, she's had a fever since the day she walked into the hospital. She was always febrile, this part of the cancer, but she had not been febrile for a while until after the heart surgery. And immediately they thought she's got an infection. So they go and they do a test, and the culture came back positive for some type of bacterial infection. They keep doing cultures every day, every single day. Every single culture that came back was negative since then. They put her on 3 antibiotics, all kinds of stuff. It was just madness. But weeks go by. We finally hit the final week. It's week 7. She finally gets through the fever, okay, because she was febrile up and down throughout the weeks. Finally, she, 3 days go by. She's fine, no fever. They said she's healthy enough to go home. And we're in pediatric intensive care unit. Not we're going to transfer her to rehab, not that we're going to go to the regular floor. No, she's good enough to go home. That morning, we go for discharge. And I remember her left hand was swollen. And I said to the cardiologist, because all the doctors came to check on her, and I said, her hand is swollen and I'm really concerned about that. And she still can barely walk. She had a lot of fluid in her stomach from the cancer. And they had to remove like 2 gallons it was almost like 2 gallons of fluid from her stomach during surgery. It was a lot. She looked pregnant, like 9 months pregnant. And she was hunched over. And I remember he said, can you stand up and walk towards me? She could barely make it across the room with him with the walker. And he had her sit down and he checked her hand and he said, oh, that's just from the clot that she had, that we have medication for her and her hand looks fine. And then he leaves and they have a big celebration, where, as they always do at the hospital, as you're leaving, they celebrate because it's a big deal. And we have confidence that, okay, she must be recovering well because they're sending her home.
Right?
They're sending her home. So we come home and we had a beautiful day. We came home around 3. We spent a few hours up here, on the deck. She wanted to sit out on the deck. It was, summer. And then finally towards evening, I said, we better head downstairs to your room because downstairs is where the guest room is. And she would have her own bathroom and her own space. And it's much more comfortable than just being in her room upstairs. And I said, let's bring you downstairs now because a nurse is going to come. So we head downstairs and we get her, rested. And the nurse comes and checks on her. And just out of the blue, she starts coughing, and we asked, and my husband, I'll never forget, he spent, and usually it's me that's a little neurotic about things, but that evening he was the one asking the question. He was like, I'm very concerned about this cough. She keeps coughing. And the nurse checked it. She said, yeah, it's a little bit of a wet cough, but it's probably because she still had that, what they call pleural fluid, which is when you're intubated in the hospital, your lungs, they kind of you have to exercise them afterwards in order to get them back to health. They still get the fluid sometimes in your lungs and you just need to move it around. And so the coughing is good. They say it helps to move that mucus around.
Okay.
And that's what she said. Her blood pressure, she checked her from head to toe. And she said, everything looks good. And she showed me how to use I don't know if anyone knows what a PICC line is, but it's basically, it's a way to draw blood and provide medications through an IV. It's sort of like an IV line, but you put it into the inner part of your arm, and it goes all the way across and right there where your heart is. Goes right. So it's easier to provide medications, and it goes right to where it needs to. And we were giving her antibiotics through the PICU line. Or the PICC line, I'm sorry, PICC line. So the nurse leaves. Within an hour, my daughter's like, Mom, I feel really hot. Okay. I go in and get the fan. And just like she keeps moving around, I'm uncomfortable. And we're like, please tell us, what is it that you need so we can make you comfortable? Like, this is our first night with her in a very long time, almost 2 months. She had been around the clock care at the hospital, and I am nervous as anything because here we are. I've got all these medications on the counter. I've got her with the PICC line, and I'm just like, I need to do everything right. And so I get the fan. Then she says, oh, I can't breathe. I call 911, and I'm on the phone with them, and she. Yeah, I can't go into detail, but it took them 2 hours to try to resuscitate her, and she didn't come back.
Wow. Jeannie, I can't even begin to understand what you guys were going through that whole time. I mean, it's just devastating to try to lose a child, and
But I talk about it. I only talk about it because my goal is for parents to be more aware, for pediatricians to be educated about this cancer. And if it could help one other child, then it was worth talking about. And so I partner with the Neuroendocrine Tumor Research Foundation. They're the largest foundation in this cancer. And we have celebrities that had this cancer. Aretha Franklin, Steve Jobs.
Really?
We have a whole,
Wow.
yes, we have a whole list of, they always say pancreatic cancer, this type. No, it's the wrong type. And actually, it's called neuroendocrine tumor cancer, but you can find it in different parts of the body. But it's that type of cancer. So you could have it start in the pancreas, you could have it in the small intestine, in the lungs, anywhere. Okay. And my daughter had it in the small intestine, and it had spread to the lymph nodes behind it and to the liver. And what it does is that this cancer, it increases your hormones in the body, and it wreaks havoc in the body. So, because if you understand hormones are really like hormones kind of like, they tell the body what it needs to do. It directs everything. And so if you have high serotonin levels are going to impact your mood. And so her behavior changed. So it's really dangerous when you have a very elevated levels. It can impact your organs in a negative way. And so that's what I just want people to understand, that when a doctor says your child has anxiety and they haven't really done blood work, they haven't really done anything, get a second opinion. And even if you go to a specialist and you get that blood work done, if something is off in the blood work, ask for something else. What else can we do to make sure that it's nothing else other than just anxiety? Because if blood work is off and you're telling me my child has panic disorder, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
No.
If the blood work is off, why aren't you doing further, investigation to find out why? Why is the liver number high? Why, just do some more testing. more diagnostics.
Right.
It's a very hard cancer to find, but the problem is not even on the cancer panel, the biomarker panel. So even if you go to get tested for cancer, you can come back, like my daughter did twice, with a negative test, and they're telling you, your child doesn't have cancer. And it's because that specific test is not on the panel.
And why? I mean, why wouldn't it be? Since I had before talked to you, I had no idea about this type of cancer. It's crazy to think that there are so many different types of cancer that can, just be out there, and we still don't know about it. I mean, I don't understand why that it wouldn't be on the panel if it's still considered a type of cancer, like it's a separate, other than your lymphoma or whatever.
It's a very, very rare cancer, but this is the thing. There's less than 250,000 cases. And I think that's worldwide or throughout the country. I forgot. I have it written down, but it's actually becoming more, I guess it's going from rare to uncommon now, because the cases are starting to increase.
Oh.
And I think that's disturbing. I think it's disturbing that the cases are starting to increase, yet we're not, like, nobody knows about this. And you don't want to find out about it when it's too late.
Right. And that's what I hear a lot when it comes to blood work, when doctors do labs. It's like nothing really shows up until it's almost past, like over or high, or if it's ridiculously low. I don't remember where I heard that from, but it's alarming because you don't know what to believe in, who to believe. And I guess, like they say, medical, anything medical is a medical practice, and you almost feel like you're a guinea pig, but it's your life, and you have to be so vigilant and advocate for yourself and your family, and be very adamant about, listen, this, I'm not crazy, or my child is, not crazy. I've lived with them for X amount of years. I know what their personality is normally like, and this is not how my child normally acts or feels or complains of whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think a lot of doctors have become just dismissive with people and parents and everything, but you have to.
And what I find interesting, I didn't know this until recently, that many women are being dismissed by doctors. That, as a woman, you go in with symptoms of something, and they dismiss it as nothing. Oh, it's nothing. And I think women need to, they need more doctors that are more caring and more understanding and listen. And I think so often you see women going in and they're just being dismissed, and it's like, there's not that one-on-one care. Right. And I'm not saying all doctors are like that, but it happens way too often. And it's in the research. You look at research and you look at the data, and far too many women are misdiagnosed because they were dismissed, they were ignored.
Right. And, you think that, people go into the healthcare business because they want to help somebody, right? And then it becomes where and when does it switch into their compassion? You know what I mean? Like when does it become, okay, you know what? It's not about me trying to help somebody. Maybe they just got a cold, or now it's just, maybe she's got COVID, or, let's just pass the buck and pass them to another specialist that maybe they can take the time, because they've, you're supposed to go in the healthcare industry because you want to help people, and there's a lot of nurses that I know that, love to be there and care for somebody, but in the end, just say, man, the regular, HMO medical practice is so off that that's what makes them go a completely different route, doing things for themselves, by themselves, doing the regular health and wellness holistic ways, and finding a way to really care about a person, because you are a person, but not everyone is the same. So you can't necessarily treat everybody the same, because
Yeah.
everybody comes in, it's not black and white, and I definitely feel that there is a lack of compassion in the medical industry. And not to anybody who is in that medical profession, because it's hard. It's not easy. There's always stuff that's out there, and we're, learning new things. But I think that there's a lot in the public that we just don't know about. And it's scary to think that you could potentially have whatever these rare diseases are when you're not feeling right, and go decades and decades of care, and and then something happens and it's too late, and then it's just too late. And it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. And then it has to come to like with your daughter, and now you're raising awareness and making sure that this doesn't try to happen again. And there's so many parents out there that are in your shoes trying to do that, and it's just not, it's not right, and it shouldn't be that way. We all should know about, we should know about these things. But thank you so much for sharing that. I know that had to be just so hard for you. I really give all my hugs to you, and prayers to your family. Tell the audience where they can, because you created a website to help donate, to help for research for this type of cancer. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's called, it's the Neuroendocrine Tumor Research Foundation. They create these funds, and you can dictate what you want the funds to go towards. So I want it focused on pediatric education. I want it focused on spreading awareness and helping other parents, and just putting it out there so that people know, and they know that when you see symptoms like this, it doesn't always mean that your child or your patient has anxiety or a panic disorder or any of those types of things. And if you see blood work that's off, then it's probably time for that next step in whatever that is as far as diagnostic goes. If you see the blood work is off, maybe it's time to do a scan. Maybe it's time to do, what is that? A CT scan or a PET scan, or whatever it is that you need to do in order to find something. So I'm not necessarily saying that everybody that walks in could possibly have this cancer. And I'm not saying that everybody needs a scan. Right. But what I am saying is that there needs to be a step-by-step diagnostics when somebody comes in. So you make sure you check off those boxes.
Right.
And that's
sort of a checklist.
Sure.
Yes. That's like, okay, well, that was a no, and that was a no, and well, maybe that could be, yes, like a checklist. Absolutely. And it needs to be like worldwide, like everybody should be doing this, not just your state, not just my state. You know what I mean? It needs to be across the board. Yep.
And so they created a fund for her. It's called the Everlasting Impact Tribute. And her name is Paris Renee Buckman. It's the Paris Renee Buckman Tribute Fund. And it's on their website. It's on the netrf.org website. And we have raised $6,400 so far. I think the website is going public today. They were just making some finishing touches, but our goal is to raise $50,000 this year. So, that is my ultimate goal. Yes, I do my wellness, and I'm still open to working with women and making their change, helping them make changes. And I've got my Facebook group to help, and I still do that. But this is really what is driving me on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And for a wonderful cause, of course, so I will definitely share that website, so people can take a look at it and hopefully share amongst their friends and parents that have, young kids, that because anxiety is running havoc around everybody nowadays. I don't think there's one person out there that doesn't even have a little bit of anxiety, but it just, be that advocate and go for those second opinions, and
Yes.
you know, take a minute to sit down with your child and really talk to them, and if there is something that may just be off, but you as a parent know your child best, and don't let a doctor dismiss you. If they
And it's not extreme. It's, you know, when you look at anxiety and panic disorder amongst folks, you know, it's not as extreme as she was throwing up, she had diarrhea, she had flushing, she had fever. I never knew she had fever until we got into the emergency room. Okay, so apparently you want to check, you know, because that's part of it too. You know, but if they look sick, like you know, as a parent, go with your gut. That's what I tell parents, go with your gut. If you know that whatever the doctor is telling you doesn't seem to fit what you see in front of you, your child, get a second opinion.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Your intuition knows it's the strongest energy and part of you, and everything that you give out is that intuition and your gut. Always go with your gut.
Yep.
So very important.
Yeah.
So very important. Well, thank you, Jeannie, for this amazing conversation. I will get all of your, links down if anybody wants to connect with Jeannie for her health and wellness and personal coaching. And so, we can also share your website for your beautiful daughter and raise awareness for this, rare cancer. I applaud you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me here, Jenny. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
And we'll talk soon. You have a wonderful day. Okay.
You too. Okay. Bye.